Hey guys, Tony here and welcome to my latest video, which is going to be about my top 5 home theater regrets for this room. I'll cover off some of the things in real time. There's not going to be any fancy B-roll. I'm just basically going to walk around the room and I'm going to show you the things that I think could help you if you're in the process of designing your own room. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into the video. So number 1 on my list is the dimensions. Now this is something that I can't change because we designed the house with these specific dimensions and I can't make it any bigger. So the dimensions of this room are 3.6 meters wide by 4.6 meters deep and 3 meters high. Now that is quite a small room when you think about it. It is not really big enough to have 2 rows. Now you can see, if you look over my shoulder, I do have 2 rows. It would be more optimal just to have a single row, and I did only have a single row for the last year and a half. But because of an opportunity that I had with Valencia, I decided to add these 2 armchairs. The main listening position is still this chair here, and everything is time aligned for that location. Now, in my case, what would have been ideal is if I had literally 1 extra meter. 1 extra meter, and you can see how close that chair is. Literally no one's actually sat in that chair yet, not even my kids. But you can imagine if I had even just 1 more meter, then I'd be able to have a bit more of an optimal seating arrangement to have 2 rows. So it's perfect for that. Like we're talking about, it's like literally 3.5 meters from the main seat to the screen, which is perfect for 120 inches. Like that's actually a really comfortable viewing distance. But these chairs, no bueno. I tried sitting in this chair. It is so close. It is just literally way too close. From the screen to the seat, you're looking at around 2 meters. So if you think that you're going to want more than 1 row, at least try to make it a suitable distance from both rows to the screen. In terms of from a single seat to the screen, it's actually really comfortable. And I mean, me being in this room all the time, really doesn't matter too much, but the regret is that I couldn't just get a little bit more distance between the back row and the rear surround speakers. There's only about 800 mil between the back of the seats and the back speakers. So it would have been better just to have that little bit of extra separation. Mind you, the Trinnov does a fantastic job of making the soundstage and all of the speakers sound so much further away than they really are. One of the things I did get right was I put nice high ceilings. So you can see from the step down to the ceiling, we're looking at just over 3 meters. So it's actually quite good in terms of having the overhead effects. When you're watching a movie, it really does sound like they're coming from way above you. So now we'll go to point number 2, which is pre-wiring. Now I made a lot of mistakes and I have covered them off in a video, so I will leave them in a card up above. If you want to see that video, I made it when I had first done this room and it was only a 5.2 setup and now it's 9.4.6. So you can imagine in a double story where you can't go in between the floors, trying to get cables run in here was extremely difficult because I wasn't prepared to rip walls down, as well as all of my gear is in another room. So to run the wires, I had to get an electrician in to do that. There was no way that I could actually do it. I've gone through 3 pre-wires for this room because I went from 5.2 and then I went to 7.2.4 and then now, as you can see, I'm 9.4.6. Each time I made these decisions thinking that was it, that was the maximum configuration that I was going to go with. And what I would suggest to people is really spend a lot of time thinking about what your ultimate goal will be. It's something that in my head I was convinced, I was like, that's it, 7.2.4, that's the max I'll ever do. And as anyone that's been in this hobby any length of time will tell you, that is literally not the case. You will always find something better or something more. Now, 9.4.6 in this room, you may think it's overkill based on the size, but it's not. It's actually the perfect configuration for this room. I have a beautiful sound bubble in this room. I'll give you an example of something that I had to do. You can see here, I've got the front wides. These speakers, cables, are actually going and being dropped in from the top. I can't pull the curtain any further, but you can see I've had to actually get my electrician to bring them through the bulkhead because we couldn't drop them down because there were windows there. Now, that was a great compromise, and I was lucky that he was able to do that because I was really hell-bent on getting front wides because I wanted these specific speakers. Give it the most amount of thought that you can, because like me, I spent a lot of money having to get, you know, professionals in to redo it, because double story, can't get in. They had to pull between 3 rooms and get hooks and all kinds of stuff. Definitely not for an amateur or a novice. In Australia anyway, you need to have a professional do that kind of work. Right, so moving along to point number 3, and that is the riser. So the riser depth I did okay, which was 1.8 meters, which gives me plenty of space to pull the seats forward, but I didn't consider the height properly. So I am literally 1 step down, which means, as you can see from these seats, the seats have to be pulled quite a bit further away from the riser so that when the seats kick out, they don't bump in. And I've basically got my daughter to sit in this chair, and we extended it out, and you can see that's the amount of space that's required. Now, ideally, you'd want to have this seat butted straight up to the back of the riser, and then you'd have more space for the recliners to go back. But because I only have a 4.6 deep room, I couldn't do that. You know, if I wanted to have some kind of separation between the rears and the seats, I needed to bring the seats forward this much. So everything is literally millimeter precision. You know, if I could do my time over again, I would bring this riser up another 17 centimeters, 170 millimeters. Don't know what that is in feet, maybe half a foot, I don't know. But that way then I'd be able to have the seats in front and actually clear when you want to recline, so you don't bump into them. Right, so moving along to regret number 4, you can't see it because I have it covered by a curtain, and that was something that I did to fix a problem that I had with light leaking through the door. So you can see this is where the front door is. You can see here's the door handle to the outside, and then you can see the screen's just here. So you can imagine before I put the curtain, we were basically looking at light coming through that doorway. So having the door right at the front, big mistake. I really should have had it either in the middle of the room. That way I could have avoided the front wides and the surrounds, but also they would have been out of view, and I should have done a swing door instead of a sliding pocket door. But you can see, I don't know if you can see, no, you can't really because the lights are there, but light will come through here when the lights are off, which I solved by basically putting curtains. So the curtains actually saved me in this case, as well as looking really cool. Like I love the curtains in this room with the S-Wave pattern. So that's another thing. Consider where you want to put your entry into the room. I know a lot of people mistakenly put it in the corner of the back, and that's literally where their surround rear speaker has to go. And that can create a lot of problems. So have a long, hard think about where you want to put the entry to your room. Now, this brings me to point number 5. I don't really have a lot of specific examples for this one, but I'm going to sort of give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and that is rushed purchases. So along this journey, I've managed to spend a lot of money that I had to save up for, and was probably quite annoying to buy something only to realize that I had to replace it. And I see that a lot in this hobby, especially speaking to people, and often they've gone and bought things like speakers which were not suitable for their room because that's all their budget would allow. They were hell-bent on, say, having a 7.2.4, so they compromised on the overall package and then ended up with weaker mains instead of getting something really suitable for their room and maybe compromising on the surrounds. So you could do something like pre-wire and only get your soundstage and then save up, and then as you can afford it, you buy the additional speakers for the other locations. I did that initially. I rushed in and I bought some Klipsch bookshelf speakers. Great speakers, don't get me wrong, but not suitable really for the end result of what I wanted. So I rushed in and I spent money where I didn't need to. I've done that with other electronics as well. Look, I did buy a Denon. I won't say that I rushed in and bought that because there was no way I could have afforded something like the Trinnov that I've got now and all the separate amplifiers. So it was a good gateway solution, but in a lot of cases where you're faced with making a decision about what to buy, my advice in this situation is to stop, think about the purchases that you're going to make, and think about the longevity. Is it something that you want to do? But the point that I'm trying to make here is don't rush in and just buy something because of the excitement factor. Because home theater is a really emotive hobby. It's something that people get really excited about. I know I do. Just you have this vision in your mind and then you rush out, and then when you install it, you find that it doesn't actually deliver on, you know, that vision that you had in your mind. I know that was the case with me. However, right now I'm sitting in what I would call my dream home theater for the dimensions and all the constraints that I just mentioned, because obviously I can't make this room bigger, but I have made this room feature all the things that I wanted with my Crix speakers, the Hyperphonics 45 you can see over here. I've got them all round, poking through the curtains like it's, you know, like we're in the cinema. And I am ultimately very happy with the room. But I thought I would make this video so that I could tell you about some of the things that I actually regretted when I was on this journey. And it is a journey. Anyone that tells you it's not is lying. It's definitely a journey. It has its ups and downs. But the main thing is, at the end of the day, when I turn the lights off, projector's firing, the speakers are pumping, and I'm engrossed in a movie, that's the main thing. You just get an amazing sense of satisfaction and enjoyment. So to me, this hobby has been totally worth it. Anyway, guys, that's all for this one. I thought I would just give you that breakdown. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. If you liked the video, you found it helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and you'll catch me in the next video. Bye for now.